Good morning. How many of you are blessed to be here today? I'm blessed in many ways today. One, I'm blessed to be able to be here sharing time with you. Another way I'm blessed is being part of this Pathfinder Club. How many of you were in Pathfinders at one time? How many of you still carry the memories of your time in Pathfinders? How many of you have had your time in Pathfinders actually help mold your life? Pathfinders, take notice of how many hands are up. Being a Pathfinder can very much shape your life. Now today I'm going to be talking a lot to the Pathfinders and the youth. But what I'm going to be talking about is something that each and every one of us need to take notice of. It's something that I've been actually spending quite a bit of time, probably over the past year, looking at, investigating, and the more I investigate, the more alarmed I get. The more frightened I get. And the more clear I get that time is coming close and Christ will be coming soon. Before we get started, though, I'd like us all to bow our heads and take a moment in prayer. Dear Father, thank you so much for giving us such a beautiful day to be able to come together. For a while there, it was sounding like it was supposed to still be snowing, and we should have gotten a whole lot more snow last night. But I honestly believe that you held that off for us. Now, please bless us today. And most of all, please bless me. Please guide my words. I don't want these to be my words. I want these to be words that you want and need us to understand. There are people here that probably will not like what I'm going to be talking about, but please open their hearts and their minds to what this topic is, and help me to be able to portray what's going on in a way that makes it clear. Please, I just pray that you draw near to us and bless us. In your name, amen. How many of you noticed the title of the sermon? How many of you are confused by the title of the sermon? The title of the sermon is Hiking to Manitou Island. How many of you have ever heard of Manitou Island? Manitou Island is an island that's about 16 miles off of the coast of Michigan. If this is Michigan, you go way up here, and then you go about 16 miles out. Manitou Island, South Manitou Island is about 3 miles wide by 3 miles long. You can take a ferry there. It's about an 1.5 mile ride by ferry. But once you get there, it is an awesome place to go camping. There's trails. There's even a shipwreck off one of the shores. And it's just a very neat place to go. The only motor vehicles on the island are those owned by the rangers and any tour guide system there. You're not allowed to take any type of motorized vehicles there, which makes it very much a friendly place to go camping. Now, Pathfinders, some of you have heard me tell stories about when I was in Pathfinders. And those of you that heard me tell stories about when I was in Pathfinders understand that our Pathfinder leader was unlike any other Pathfinder leader I've ever come across. His name was Lex Salisbury. In fact, Herb, his brother-in-law, was my Pathfinder leader's father. So Herb knows exactly who I'm talking about. And Lex was a very interesting and unusual guy, wasn't he? Personally, I feel that Lex was a genius in his own way. But you also have to understand that When our Pathfinder Club, and when I talk about my Pathfinder Club growing up, I was actually in a couple different Pathfinder clubs growing up because my dad was a pastor and we'd move. But for me, when I was in Pathfinders, I'm talking about the Lake City Highlighters Pathfinder Club. To be honest, I don't even remember the names of some of the other Pathfinder clubs I was in, because to me, the Highlighters Pathfinder Club was the Pathfinder Club that shaped my life. And the staff in our Pathfinder Club, I believe all of them were under the age of 30. But to us, that was a blessing because they were young enough where they fully committed to making Pathfinders an experience that we will never forget. Now, there was a lot of funny and crazy stuff we did, but they also made sure that things did not get out of hand. Everything was done in good fun, but there was a structure there, and we learned a lot. Well, one year, Lex decided that the Pathfinders were going to South Manitou Island for a camping trip. So we did fundraising because it's expensive to go, and we did fundraising all year. And what you also have to understand about Highlighters Pathfinder Club is that Lex pretty much lived Pathfinders. And so our Pathfinder Club was pretty much a year-round club. We went camping at least 3 to 4 times in the summer. In the winters, we went camping at least 2 to 3 times. We were constantly out doing stuff. We were interacting with each other. And it was to a point where us Pathfinders did not have time to get into trouble. We didn't have the time to sit at home playing video games or watching television. Why? Because Lex was getting us out there, getting us into nature, understanding how to survive in the woods, understanding all the wonderful things that God had made for us to enjoy. And in turn, if you talk to anybody in the Highlighters Pathfinder Club, they all will tell you that the Highlighters Pathfinder Club shaped their life immensely. Well, we decided to go to Manitou Island, and we went there. First day we got there, we picked a campsite right there on the beach. It was awesome. And we had a pretty large group. And once we got camp set up, we were here like, let's go swimming. Well, we had a huge beach. But a place that naturally the guys wanted to go was the dock. Because the dock went way out into the water was deep, and you could climb on the dock, and you could dive off the dock and everything, and it was a lot of fun. So we were swimming and diving and stuff there for a while, and then my brother and Lex came across these giant stones. And they're here like, oh, I got an idea. So they picked up those giant stones, they walked to the end of the dock, and they threw them in the water. And they went, and they says, all right, it says, time for races. And what we would do is two people would get at the end of the dock, and then we'd dive down into the water, grab the rocks, and see who could walk along the bottom of the lake to the shore first, holding the rocks to keep them down. If they started running out of air, they'd drop the rock, pop back up, grab some air, go back down, and finish walking. And that's how we entertained ourselves. That was not an unusual way of entertaining ourselves in our club. So we were doing that for a while, and we were getting more used to it, and we found that the more we did it, the more our lung capacity would pick up and the further we could go. And we were doing this for at least an hour, having races. All of a sudden, Lex turned to me, says, turned to one of the other staff, and he says, what time is it? It's about 3:30. Well, we knew that the next ferry boat was coming in around 4. He went, okay. He says, I'll be back. And Lex took off. Remember, this is our leader. And so we're all swimming there, having fun, jumping around and swimming. And all of a sudden, Lex comes back about 15 minutes later. And he has his full camping gear. His backpack, his boots, pants, everything. Hat. Lex wore glasses. And we're like, where is he going? And he came up and he says, all right, come on over here for a minute. So we pulled over, we all came over to the dock where he's at, and he's like, whatever happens, you guys have no idea who I am. and you have no idea what's going on. And we're here like, okay. He says, that's all you need to know. We're like, okay. So he's just sort of sitting there watching, and all of a sudden he looks up, and off in the distance we see the ferry boat coming. What does Lex do? He jumps in the water. We're here like, dude, what are you doing? And he's just sitting there hanging out by the pier. As the ferry boat comes up and people start getting ready to come off, Lex dives down, grabs one of those rocks, and the rest of us immediately figure out what he's doing. So we're all jumping around in the water, and as the people are coming off the ferry boat, all of a sudden one of us says, oh, something touched me. And we're here like, what? And then another one says, hey, what was that? And then someone on the dock says, what is that? And they're pointing at the water, and all of a sudden you see bubbles coming up. And the people coming off the ferry boat, they're here like, what? And they're walking, they walk over, and they look down in the water, and you can see this dark figure coming. And all of a sudden, up out of the water, you see Lex come walking up. First his backpack, then his head and everything. When he gets shoulder height in the water, he drops the rock and just keeps walking. And he comes trudging up onto shore. He goes, turns around, throws off his backpack, sits down, looks up and stares at everybody that was on that ferry boat staring at him. And he goes, huh? Then he looks over, looks at the ferry boat, looks back at them, and he said something I will never forget. He went, there's a boat? No one ever told me there was a boat. Well, that would have made it a lot easier. He grabs his backpack, slings it over his shoulder, starts stomping down the beach, kicking little rocks and seashells out of the way as he goes storming off down the beach. Everybody on that dock is just standing there going, where did he come from? All of us are like, where did he come from? Finally, everybody sort of shrugs, and they sort of go off scratching their head, walking, doing their thing. We quickly finish up swimming, and other staff says, oh, it's time to go back to camp, so we go back to camp. It took a couple days for Lex to dry out his gear. But when we got back to the camp, we were laughing so hard, we were crying. What was amazing about that? As we knew, he pulled a good joke. But what was amazing about that to me was later on in the weekend, we were hiking around the island. Lex was leading us in the hikes, and we were all walking along, and we met up with some of the people that was coming off the ferry boat. And as we came up to them, they noticed Lex, they recognized Lex, then they recognized the rest of us as one swimming around there, and they got this totally confused look on their face. And they were here like, do you know him? We're here like, yeah. And they're here like, oh, well, is he with your group? We're here like, yeah, he's our leader. And they're here like, oh. And then finally, someone comes up to Lex and says, so how exactly did you get here? This was an adult. Said, how exactly did you get here? And Lex just looked at him, and he just stared at him. And he's like, you've got to be kidding me. He's here like, how did you get here? He says, by boat. And he's here like, there you go. And the guy was here like, oh. He says, I knew it. I knew you couldn't have walked, but how did you get here? You see, Lex did an illusion. Any logical thought would tell you that he just walked a few feet out of the water. But because Lex had the full camping gear, Lex had a rock holding him down, so he wasn't just all of a sudden bobbing up there. He was literally walking up. Lex had the attitude and the look and the reactions to simulate like he had totally been confused that there was a boat that could take him and he didn't have to hike there. That those standing on the pier, many of those had no idea what was going on. They could not put together what was reality and what was fiction. Friends, you can't always believe what you're seeing. It's amazing because as humans, we believe that, you know what? I'm 15 years old. I got it figured out. I'm 30 years old. I got it figured out. I'm 75 years old. No one can fool me. I'm 90 years old. I've seen everything. Guess what? The devil has been practicing for over 6,000 years. Also, the devil is not restricted with our human mind. The devil's not human. He was created as an angel. He is not bound by our human limitations. In everywhere, every facet of our life, he has illusions happening. And the thing about the devil is he lets us actually see the signs. But if we don't know what we're looking at, we have no idea that that's even a sign. Friends, Pathfinders, you guys are a big target. You see, the devil knows that if he can get our young, and if he can get into their minds when they're young and stay in there by the time they're older, he can manipulate them however he wants and gets them to do whatever he wants. And he has a full frontal war going on with our youth. Lots of us are aware of it, but we might not be fully aware of exactly how intense the war is. Well, I'm going to be talking about that today. I'm going to be talking first about the music we listen to. Music, what was one of the devil's primary jobs in heaven? He was a music leader. You know, Ellen White indicates that the devil was able to sing, or Lucifer was able to sing four-part harmony himself. That's pretty talented. The devil has complete understanding of the powers of music. You see, music is an interesting art in that it's able to not only stimulate your hearing, but it can stimulate your mind, it can stimulate your body movements, it can stimulate your actions. It can actually alter your way of thinking. It is a format that is able to actually train your mind. How many of you learned your ABCs by singing it? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Music is a powerful tool, and the devil knows that. How many of you like to listen to the radio? How many of you actually listen to the words of the songs on the radio? How many of you just like the rhythm and the beat? Huh? Okay. The devil knows that. The majority of us don't actually listen to what the lyrics of songs are. We just like the way it sounds and the rhythm it has and the way it makes us feel. And the devil is using that as a tool because he knows that all he has to do is he has to plant a seed in your mind. Where the devil is, Christ cannot be. The Lord said, I stand at the door and I knock. The Lord will not enter you if you don't invite him in. There's only room for one or the other. So if you're letting the devil enter in, the Lord has to leave. So when you're listening and you're not even paying attention to what you're hearing, you're opening yourself up to inviting whoever it is that's stimulating you. And friends, the music industry is owned by the devil. And you say, well, you're blowing it out of proportion. No, I'm not. Who's one of the hottest female singers right now? Huh? Rihanna, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga, if you watch a Lady Gaga video, every single frame in her video has a minimum of three satanic symbols in it. How many of you have ever seen her put her index and her thumb together, hold her fingers out like that, and put it in front of her eye? Guess what? She just flashed you 2 satanic symbols right there. The thumb to the index with the fingers out, that's the symbol of 666. First 6, second 6, third 6. She puts it in front of her eye, that's the eye of Horus, all-seeing eye. How many of you have ever seen a music artist go and make a triangle in front of their face and look through it? That's another symbol for the all-seeing eye. How many of you have ever seen a music artist go and take their picture with one hand over their eye? Rihanna has that as one of her album covers. Eye of Horus. Who is Horus? Another name for Horus is Ra, the Egyptian god of the sky. One of Lady Gaga's videos, she shows a casket in her video. On the front of the casket is a big red cross. Over top of the cross it says Monster. What was it, the Emmys or the Golden Globe? Lady Gaga spent the entire time inside a giant egg. And at the end of the show, she emerged from that egg and did a performance. That was all satanic symbolism. Michael Jackson. If you look on, I'm trying to remember which Michael Jackson album it is, right down in the corner, you see a picture of an old guy on there. He has a bunch of pictures on there. That old guy, Aleister Crowley, the father of modern Satanism. He also has monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies they use on a lot of albums. Why? Because a monarch butterfly starts out as one and then transforms into something else. They typically use the monarch butterfly. How many of you have noticed that, especially young artists, they start out, they have a full career, then they disappear for a while, and then all of a sudden they emerge again. And they emerge, when they come out, they're almost like a different person. And they're really hard-hitting, and they have really like elaborate videos and everything. That time that they're disappearing, they're actually being mentored by the music industry. They're being trained on how to portray themselves. There was a music artist that was raised in a Christian home, very devout Christian home. To be honest, her mother and her father, I don't know what denomination, but both her mother and her father were ministers in their church. Her goal in life was to be the new Amy Grant, to just make a big statement in the Christian music industry. Guess what? It wasn't taken off for her. So, in her own words, and you can find this on the internet, her actually saying it in her own words, she turns and she says, yeah, and that's when I sold my soul to the devil. Shortly after that, she smashed onto the secular scene with a hit called I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. How many of you know who I'm talking about? Who is it? Katy Perry. From that point on, hit after hit after hit. California Girls. She's talking about walking around in very tight jeans and skimpy outfits and hooking up. She'll be his California girl. Last Friday night, she talks about how she spent Friday night getting totally trashed, committing crimes, having menage a trois, getting drunk, can't remember anything. She's sure that she'll probably get arrested, but come next Friday night, she's going to do it again. This is a lady that is actually becoming idols for our kids. Now, Katy Perry wrote a song, but she chose not to record it herself. Instead, she put it out to other artists to see which one wanted to do it and which one she felt would be a good representation for this song. So she put the song out, and there were several girls that were competing for this song. I have found 4 different recordings of this song. Only one of them was actually released on an album. One of the girls competing for this song was named Ashley Tisdale. How many of you know who Ashley Tisdale is? And the Disney movie High School Musical, she's the one that plays Sharpay, the really rich girl that stuck on herself. Another one is another Walt Disney personality, Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus, she had her own show on the Disney Channel called Hannah Montana. On her show, she's a girl that's living a double life. One is just a simple high school girl that has an alter ego that's a rock star, and how she's torn between the two. I've also found a recording of her singing it. I also have found a recording of Katy Perry singing it. I'm thinking that's the demo that they handed out. And then she settled on letting another Disney starlet record it by the name of Selena Gomez. Now, Selena Gomez is on the show Wizards of Waverly Way, or Waverly Place, where she is a girl and her 2 brothers, and they are wizards in training because their dad was a wizard and their mom was a mortal. And so now they're sort of crisscrossing between the wizards and the mortals. The name of this song is Rock God. I'm going to read you the lyrics. Now remember, these lyrics are when this was recorded, she was probably around 16 or 17 years old. I'm trying to... I've got too many papers here. I have part of it. Well, let me see if I have part of the song. It starts out saying how the preacher man came to the club one night and he said to me, "Girl, when are you going to change your ways?" Oh man, I really need the lyrics. I hope I didn't leave those at home. The tone of it goes, "Girl, when are you going to change your ways?" She says, "Preacher man," I don't remember all the lyrics, but she basically says, "Preacher man, I can't, because I'm in love with the rhythm and the rhyme And when I hear it, I start swaying my hips and I start dancing my feet. You see, I'm in love with my rock God. He says, preacher man came and said, girl, when you're going to change your way, when you're going to live yourself right? She says, I can't. You see, I'm in love with my rock God. I'm in love with my rock God. She goes on in the song talking about how she is willing to turn everything away. The only thing that's important to her is the way that the music makes her feel. The way that it makes her body move. As the song continues on, she keeps repeating, I'm in love with my rock God, rock God. At one point, she says, don't cry for me. I don't regret the path I've taken. I know the angels cry over me, but I'm gone, gone, gone. Preacher man, preacher man, preacher man, preacher man, preacher man, I know not what I do, preacher man, preacher man, preacher man, preacher man, I'm gone, 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 gone. How many of you would ever dream that your children are being programmed with lyrics like that? I named another Disney starlet, Miley Cyrus. She took a break. She got out of television, made a break into music industry. One of her big breakout songs was called Can't Be Tamed. In this video, she actually portrays herself as a giant bird-like creature in tight leather and black wings. Very evil looking. People are scared of her. The beats are really hard, rhythm's hard. The words are said very fast. For those who don't know me, I can get a bit crazy. I have to get my way 24 hours a day because I'm hot like that. Every guy everywhere just gives me mad attention because I'm under inspection. I always get the 10s because I'm built like that. I go through guys like money flying out their hands. They try to change me, but they realize they can't. And every tomorrow is a day I never planned. If you're going to be my man, you got to understand, I can't be tamed. I can't be saved. I can't be blamed. I can't. I can't be saved. Oh, I can't be tamed. I can't be changed. I can't be saved. I can't be tamed. And then she goes on talking about what she can and can't do. But the whole tone of the song is that no matter what you do, she's not going to change. Pathfinders. Let me ask you this. When you're listening to these songs, who is it that you're letting enter your heart and your mind? God says, I stand at the door and I knock. Any man that opens the door, I'll come into. See, the devil is out and he's on a mission. In Revelation 12, Revelation 12:9, it says, the great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. And he was cast out onto the earth, him and his angels were cast out with him. That text right there tells the mission of the devil. And friends, he's been practicing it for 6,000 years. It's not just music that's targeting our kids. It's television. It's movies. How many of you have seen the latest movies coming out in the past year or so? How many of them are blatantly satanic and filled with witchcraft? Twilight series, Harry Potter, Pirates of the Caribbean, X-Men. Let's see, what else? Even cartoons. Believe it or not, the number one company out there targeting our kids to dement their mind is Walt Disney. There's a worldwide organization that is not spoken of called Illuminati. Their whole desire is creating a new world order. I'm not getting into it, but all of this actually, believe it or not, one thing I found out, Walt Disney was a 33rd degree Mason of the Masonic order. The Freemasons are one of the primary workhorses by the Illuminati, along with other secret societies. Walt Disney has a track record of, in their movies, putting either spiritualism or sexual connotations. How many of you have ever watched Chronicles of Narnia? That is a Christian movie. How many of you are familiar with the faun? What is the faun? He's part goat and part human. He has big old ears sticking out and little tiny horns sticking off the top of his head. He's supposed to be a good guy in the movie. He actually befriends the little girl in the movie. And he takes her back to his house. Doesn't she get hurt or something? She falls asleep, yeah. He takes her back to her house, and when she wakes up, he's running around all upset. And she asks what's wrong. He's here oh, I did something very bad, and come to find out, he says that it's supposed to take her back to the queen or something like that. What they don't tell you is that the very character that faun, and if you see pictures, it's an exact replica, that faun is designed after, is a mythological god that is the worst sexual deviant out there. And he is known for molesting. In that movie, the way they pull it off, at first he doesn't allude as to why he's upset or what he did that was so bad. But the way he acts, if you understand who he's designed after and what the connotations are of the character he's designed after, it gives you a double meaning. The girl was asleep in his house. He brought her back to his house. She was asleep. He woke up. Oh, I did something terrible. He's portraying a character that in mythological terms was the worst sexual deviant out there. In cartoons, there's been sexual connotations in Aladdin, Little Mermaid, The Rescuers. The Rescuers, there's one clip where it shows the mice running along, and it actually, in the very background, in a little tiny window, you actually see from here up of a woman that's nude. Aladdin, the dust starts swirling around on the desert, and at one point it swirls up and spells out the word sex. Little Mermaid, on the castle for the mermaids under the sea. Dead center on the castle, one of the uprights has a phallic symbol. If you look at it closely, you can't miss it. Walt Disney has spent years desensitizing us. That's what the devil's doing, is he's desensitizing us. Parents, we need to be alert. We need to look closer. Things are not as they seem because time is drawing close. And there's a razor wire fence between those of the side of the devil and the side of Christ. And believe me, that fence is getting taller and taller every time, and you don't want to be straddling it when it gets too high. Christ is only going to pick those to go to heaven with him. The only ones that's going to be able to is those that totally shun any opportunity for the devil to enter their life. The world today is saying, well, we need to compromise, we need to compromise. Even in our our religious institutions, how many of them do you see them saying, we need to compromise, we need to come together? The Lord does not compromise. If the Lord was to compromise with sin, sin will never be destroyed. When Christ comes again, he's coming to destroy sin forever, to cleanse the universe of sin. The only way that will happen is if there's no remnants of sin left. And that is why we have to decide which side of the fence we're on. Pathfinders, you need to be more vigilant than ever to be aware of what's going on. If you hear a song that catches your attention, go home, download the lyrics of the song. What that does is that takes the rhythm, the beat, everything away from it, and it just lets you see what their message is. It puts that song in a totally different realm. It lets your mind actually reason out what they're saying. 1 Corinthians. I love the book of 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 10. First Corinthians 10, verse 21. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. You need to pick a side. Friends, I've talked a little bit about different underlying signs and everything. A lot of this stuff, the symbolisms and everything, is not just limited to the entertainment industry. It crosses ties of financial, political, economical, spiritual lines. The devil has an entire network out there. And it's been going on for hundreds of years. These symbols are ways for them to actually communicate with each other. A lot of people say, well, it's just a symbol. It doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. What's alarming is they're becoming more and more blatant about what their intentions are. The reason why they're doing that is because it's working. People are becoming more and more desensitized as to what their intentions are, and they can be more blatant about it. People say, well, when we talk about time of the end and how our rights will be taken away from us, and they hear like, well, that can't happen. I can tell you for sure it will happen because the groundwork has already been laid. All the signs are out there. If you do research and you start actually following the lines and actually listening to what different individuals involved are saying, they're laying the groundwork. Time is running short. People, how many of you say in your head, well, you know what? I know it's running short, but once I see stuff really start getting out of hand, that's when, when I start seeing the Sunday laws start coming in, that's when I'm going to actually make my move. Friends, that's too late. I don't know how many of you realize it, but that comes after the close of probation. Ellen White in the book Testimonies. I really need to go by my notes because now I have to thumb through here to find my stuff. And then Testimonies, page 466, paragraph 2. It's a solemn thing to die, but a far more solemn thing to live. Every thought and deed of our lives will meet us again. What we make of ourselves in probationary time, that we must remain to all eternity. Death brings dissolution to the body, but makes no change in character. The coming of Christ does not change our characters, it only fixes them forever beyond all change. Now is the time to develop our character. Now is when we need to actually be putting in our focus. Pathfinders, every week we have you say what? Pathfinder, pledge, and the Pathfinder law. Why do we do that? Pathfinder is more than just going out and going camping and learning little honors and stuff like that. The Pathfinder Club is designed to help nurture and train our youth to become God-fearing and strong leaders. The Pathfinder Pledge is a very important pledge. The difference between a pledge and a law is a pledge is a personal decision to commit to what you're saying before not only your Pathfinder leaders and everybody listening, but also before God. By the grace of God. It starts out by the grace of God because it's only through God's grace and power that we will even stand a chance of being able to do anything else in the pledge. God is our strength. Without God in our life and guiding us, we are left on our own, and the devil is way smarter than we are. By the grace of God, I will be pure. Purity. What does it mean to be pure? Be clean. As Pathfinders, it is our duty to try to live our life in the way that God showed us. To shun anything that might give the devil an opportunity to enter into our mind, in our life. I will be pure, kind, and true. You see, once we strive to have a character that is pure, being kind is a byproduct of that. If we let Christ enter our heart and speak to us, and we strive to let Him be our guide, kindness is a byproduct of that. We will start emulating a life that will show love to others, and in turn will be attractive to those who look upon us. Be pure, kind, and true. To be true means that you're not only telling the truth, but you're being true to your pledge and your commitment that you've made. You are going to fully commit, and you're going to do everything you can to see that through. To be true means that you are going to live by God's laws, that you're going to strive to be an example of what a Christian should be. To be true means that you do not bear a false witness, not only towards your friend, to your people you interact, but also bear a false witness about God. How the type of character you give in the general public, how you act, the way you dress. To be true means to live a life without regret, because there's nothing to regret. By the grace of God, I will be pure, kind, and true. I will keep the Pathfinder law. The Pathfinder laws are set up to help you develop a character. They're not to be looked at as something that's a drudgery. They are to be looked at as something as a cheat sheet for you to understand how to become an adult that's a strong leader, that's respectable, that is God-fearing. By the grace of God, I will be pure, kind, and true. I will keep the Pathfinder law. I will be a servant of God and a friend to man. The highest calling that we can have is to be a servant. Christ's life on earth, he was a servant. His life was dedicated to serving others. The highest calling we can have is the same mission, to serve others. Because through service, you will also be blessed. Pathfinders, I know I've talked to you in the past about understanding what this pledge means, but I'm throwing this out to you again. Embrace this pledge. By the grace of God, I will be pure, kind, and true. I will keep the Pathfinder law. I will be a servant of God and a friend to men. Parents, this pledge is just as important for you. Yeah, we have them pledging it, but what about us as adults? How many of you see these kids sitting up here? How many of you would hate to see any of these kids go astray? Raise your hand. How many of you are willing to help these kids develop into God-fearing, strong Christian leaders? How many of you are willing to take a pledge yourself? If you are, will you please stand up? I'd like for all of you to repeat after me, by the grace of God. I will be pure, kind, and true. I will keep all of God's solemn commandments and laws. I will be a servant of God. And I will be a friend of my fellow man. I want all of you to understand you have actually taken a pledge. You have taken a pledge in the house of God. A pledge is something that's very sacred. God expects us to follow through with our pledges. I'd like us to bow our heads. Dear Father, there's times when it feels like we're totally surrounded by the enemy. The devil has had plenty of time to plot out his attack. He's had plenty of time to lay the groundwork. And many times we're sitting there so preoccupied with our work and our daily life that we don't even take the time to notice. But the devil never rests. He's a very determined foe and a very focused one. And the only way that we shall survive is through you. In 1 Corinthians 10:13, you said that you will not permit us to be tempted beyond our abilities to bear. And that if we turn to you, you will always provide a way out, that we can bear it. Now, all those standing in your house at this point has given a pledge to help our youth, help our Pathfinders. And we once again ask for your assistance on this. Because if we try it on our own, we will fail. But if we, each and every one of us, strive to be pure, kind, and true, and to let you be our guiding light, then we have the ability to see it through. Now please bless us as we head out of here and to move on to enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. And please bless us and help us to truly enjoy this day you've given us.